So the Nintendo Direct just wrapped up, and we have a lot to talk about. So we are, of course, joined by Derek, Ash, and John, and we have a ton of game announcements, some new Smash characters, or a new Smash character, and as well as a ton of Final Fantasies. And let's get that out of the way. What the hell, John? How did you freaking guess all of those Final Fantasies?
I don't know. I even guessed that they're missing 8. Like, they did 7, 9, 10, 12, no 8.
Or 8.
I just thought, like, Square have their own division, they're going to be doing a bunch of ports. Why not announce all of them at once? They totally did.
That is absurd.
So good.
That is amazing. And you also called Kirby's Epic Yarn on 3DS, so hats off to you on that as well. But let's talk about the real big stuff here now. And let's just go ahead and let's start off with what the Direct started off with which was an announcement of Luigi's Mansion 3. It's coming to Nintendo Switch. We got maybe, I think, a minute-long trailer for it. Didn't show a ton of gameplay, but it did show some gameplay. And none of us saw this coming. So, what is your guys' reaction to seeing Luigi coming back for a third game on Nintendo Switch?
I love it. I love it so much. I noticed right away that the vacuum was the same as the Castlevania trailer for Smash. It's like, I knew there had to be a reason for that. Something Luigi was happening.
Including with the plunger firing ability.
Right. That's so cool. Like, I really like the look of this game. It's not, there's obviously not a lot to go off of yet, but that's what the analysis machine is for, so we'll get to that. But just the look of the game, the sense of it, and the fact that that last shot shows a giant, like, hotel, essentially. Mm-hmm. That's what we're looking for. This is going to be they're going to go back to the original mansion. It really feels like that, where it's just one big place where you're unlocking stuff, and I guess climbing higher and higher and throughout this thing. And I cannot wait. This looks awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what a way to start off, too. Like, first 30, 40 seconds of the Direct, bam, Luigi's Mansion 3.
Right?
There you go. Like, that is starting off on an incredibly high point. I do find myself wondering if the name might change for the US, just because we had Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon here in the US, whereas in Europe it was Luigi's Mansion 2. So I am curious if we'll get a subtitle instead, ultimately, when the game comes out. Either way, I'm excited, and Derek, I'm right there with you. If we are indeed returning to one giant place to explore, I'm all about it. That's what I have been wanting from the series.
Yeah, I wanted to be more of an adventure-type game, like the first one was. Yeah.
Totally. And the first game was also like almost like a tech demo for the GameCube to show what it could do. And my first thoughts were like, this game looks absolutely stunning. Like, the lighting was amazing, all the details. It's a huge step up from Dark Moon, which was great for 3DS. But this is something else entirely, and it looks so good.
It looks great. The animations look on point, and it makes me wonder if, do you think Next Level Games is behind this again? Because the character animation very much reminded me of Dark Moon, which is a good thing.
Yeah,
I would not be surprised.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it doesn't actually say in the trailer who's making it, but totally. Because I'm pretty sure Grezzo are doing the 3DS port, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess Next Level are free to do whatever else they're doing. So most likely this, yeah.
That's true. And I think, John, you were mentioning earlier, was it you that you were saying you like the look of the ghosts in this so far?
Yeah, so they're kind of this weird mix of the original ghosts from the first game and the second game's ghosts as well. Mm-hmm. And I was never really a fan of how they looked in Dark Moon. Right. I preferred the more sort of goofy and more animated original ghosts. And this one kind of finds like a nice mix. The color palette seems kind of muted, which I kind of like for like a horror theme. But it also has the big expressions and the big shapes of the original ghosts as well. So yeah, it looks really interesting, and there's bound to be tons more like variety to all these ghosts so far. So I'm pretty sure we've only seen the same ghost kind of repeated in this trailer.
Right. Besides the dog, of course.
All right, yeah.
I forget its name. I just want to say it feels good to finally see Luigi's Mansion in HD. Like, this looks clean.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it makes a bit more sense why we're not getting Luigi's Mansion 1 on Switch now, because we're getting this instead.
I'm okay with that, exactly.
I'm fine with this.
Good trade-off.
Alright, so let's move on to the next biggest announcement, which of course was New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, baby! No, I'm joking. We'll come back to that. No, I think perhaps even bigger, actually, at least based on our view count. Actually, there's a couple that might be bigger. But let's talk about Isabelle and Smash Brothers. It's something we leaned into in the last predictions we posted yesterday. It happened, and she looks great. I love how they've so have we decided yet if she's a new character or is she an Echo?
She is a brand new character according to Smash. She is not considered an Echo, but looking at her moveset, she's kind of an Echo. She's an Echo in the same way that Dr. Mario is an Echo.
Like similar moves, but enough property changes to...
Yeah, a ton of property changes, because she doesn't, like, her move, the animation of her moves is very similar to the villager, but they have different effects. Like, instead of digging and burying somebody with her down smash, she now sends out a bucket of water on each side.
Right.
Her grab is a fishing pole, which gives her greater length.
I love her recovery now. It still uses balloons, but how she floats on a chair, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And I love how she seems to have like a vertically traveling gyroid. I don't know if she buries it later or then people can like trip over it like a mine, but she does have some sort of vertical gyroid move, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that seems to be a replacement for the villager's tree.
That's what I thought it was. Okay.
She's a lot less violent than the villager. Yeah. And even her trailer wasn't violent. Like, no one died in this trailer. It doesn't feel right,
you're right.
for a Smash trailer.
Where's Killabelle?
Yeah, exactly. Nobody died except, I guess, Isabelle's productivity.
Yep, I guess so.
True.
So yeah, it's pretty awesome seeing Isabelle here. A second Animal Crossing representative, and the first like true character from the series that's not an avatar. So it's awesome to see her rise to stardom from one game, basically. I guess she's also in Pocket Camp, but we don't really count that.
Although I will say that I do like how the Direct referenced that. They like how Tom Nook in the Animal Crossing thing says, after all that camping and smashing, like they do reference camping, like Pocket Camp, but not too much.
Right. Well, speaking of referencing things, right after Isabelle, it went right into the Animal Crossing tease with Tom Nook. No gameplay, unfortunately. In fact, we saw very little of the game, if that was even the game. That may have been a CG opening for all we know. But yeah, what do you guys think of knowing Animal Crossing is on the way for sure now?
2019 is looking good. We got the Pokemon Gen 8, we got Animal Crossing, we got all these other games like Town and all that stuff.
Luigi's Mansion 3, how could you forget?
Metroid Prime 4 probably as well. I mean,
Yoshi's Crafted World.
Yoshi's Crafted World.
It's a good year already.
Yeah.
It's looking to be the best year for Switch. I mean, in 2017 had like a 3D Mario and a 3D Zelda, but 2019 is just looking incredible.
Yeah, it really is, and that's not counting any other things that are kind of unknown quantities like Daemon X Machina and things, which may turn out to be awesome. So already we've got a nice number of known quantities and also a nice number of, hey, these are also coming and these might end up being really good too. We're just not quite sure about them yet.
One thing we don't know about Animal Crossing yet is exactly what the hook is for this one, because they didn't really give any details. All we know is Animal Crossing is coming to Switch, and maybe that's enough. But in our predictions, we were kind of saying that it'll have like a big online component and push Nintendo Switch online, and they never really touched into that, so we don't really know if this is the big online game. It probably will be, but they haven't really said anything about it.
That's a great point. I mean, we were expecting it to be here, but we expected a greater focus on the online, and there was none. I mean, there was no focus on the gameplay even. It's simply an announcement. I mean, it was basically the Metroid Prime 4 announcement, just with a little bit more of just a little bit of better,
a little more flavor to it.
Yeah, exactly.
How about that Switch Online?
Yeah,
yeah, good segue. I have no opinions on what they showed us. It was an elaborate presentation of what we already know.
Gotcha.
Apart from the NES Joy-Con, they were really cool. I loved how they look on the actual Switch, but they were the only thing that interested me. Like everything else was not a surprise.
Mm-hmm. See, I'm going to take the exact opposite tact, actually. I didn't like those NES controllers at all. I thought they looked incredibly awkward while connected to the Switch, and that they were too big for the Switch, and I just didn't think it looked aesthetically pleasing, personally, so...
I mean, they're not meant to. The whole idea is they're just NES controllers that slot onto your Switch.
Oh, totally!
Well, think of it this way, though. Think of them as Famicom controllers when they're actually attached to the console itself.
There you go. Good point.
Oh, totally. Yeah, no. Like I get I get the utility of them. I just don't think it looks very good. But I mean, I'm sure they're going to sell like crazy because of these, NES, Nintendo Switch Online games coming up. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just don't. I'd rather have the Joy-Con connected just because I don't think it looks particularly great. But it is, you have to have those full-size NES controllers. I think more people would have complained if they were tiny NES controllers that fit on the Switch.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that they're a novelty. I mean, you can only play NES games with them effectively, so...
I mean, I assume there's a few indie titles you could maybe play with it, like Shovel Knight. It wouldn't surprise me if they could do that.
Classic style game might work, but...
And
like New Super Mario Bros. U, maybe.
Well, hey, speaking of which, John, that was another game you were telling us earlier you had no real opinion on, right?
Yeah, it looks the exact same.
It does.
And I'm not really sure where the Deluxe is coming from. I mean, Toadette's playable now, but is that really worthy of the Deluxe moniker.
Right, so I mean the only real new features, I mean it includes New Super Luigi U as well, so I guess if you missed out on both games originally, that's a whole lot of stages for you. But then the only other real new features are Nabbit and Toadette. And Toadette has a weird feature where she turns into Peach, like Peachette or something.
Yeah.
Peachette.
It's so weird.
What's that about?
Why not just have Peach?
Yeah, why not just put Peach in the game? Like,
I don't like
Because
the
it
idea.
doesn't make any story sense if Peach is rescuing herself.
It
from
doesn't make
getting
any
kidnapped.
story sense as is, Derek.
well, and
Because Toadette is turning into Peach thanks to the Super Crown, so it's not actually Peach; it's still just Toadette with floating capabilities. It makes perfect story
God.
sense.
But what are the implications for the Mario timeline? Has Toadette always been able to do this, and we just haven't known? Like,
Well, no, she's just never had the Super Crown before.
this is a big deal, you guys.
is a big
Like, this is for Mario scholars to dissect here.
You know what it reminds me of? Actually, it reminds me of Super Mario 64 DS, where you would wear the hat of another character and become that character, and that is the worst possible association to have. So
Yeah.
You know what? There's more similarities too. Even the title. This is called New Super Mario Bros. U, and it's on the Switch. And just like 64 DS had like a double-barrel name.
Yeah.
It's
it's
just so
inherently
weird.
contradictory.
Yeah, I mean, this is a port in the same vein kind of as Tropical Freeze, but Tropical Freeze didn't get a lot of love when it first came out, and was a lot better game than New Super Mario Bros. U. So it's just not nearly as exciting, because it's basically like, okay, here's the game, here's the DLC, and here's the new character.
Yeah, I mean the way I look at it is, if you missed out on New Super Mario Bros. U and you wanted to play it, this is the definitive version. Pretty clearly, this is the one to get. There seems to be a lot of replay value there, a lot of gameplay there at least. And it may not personally excite me that much. I'm not the biggest New Super Mario Bros. Guy, but I mean it is a solid game overall. It's just, there's not much here for us who have played it originally to come back to. Like, why would we ever replay this beyond review purposes? So
Exactly. And it's less inherently replayable than something like Tropical Freeze, because Tropical Freeze is so good.
and I think it's gonna be even harder to play now after Tropical Freeze. So, yeah.
Yeah, true.
It's also coming out on January 11th, which usually is just like, okay, cool, that doesn't have much to compete against, but there's a lot coming out in January in 2019, so I mean, it'll probably still do well because the new Super Mario
It's
Brothers-
Mario, of course it'll do well.
It's Mario.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Mario platformers, or Mario-esque platformers, we got the official reveal of Yoshi's Crafted World. So the Nintendo.com leak ended up being accurate, of course. But we saw that it does seem, we got a better look at the gameplay now versus what we saw at E3, and they're doing some interesting stuff here, like playing with the kind of concept of how these stages unravel, so to speak, or how they play in general, with you being able to flip them upside down or explore them in reverse, giving you a different angle on the background, for instance. So yeah, I know you guys were big fans of Yoshi's Woolly World. What do you think of what we saw in this game?
I might need to go back and watch the Direct again, but this may be my game of the Direct. I am so hyped for this game, just because, and I really did love Woolly World, and this seems to be a follow-up to that in every meaningful way, and I just love the creativity on display. Like, not only do the visuals look great, but the way the stages change and the way that Yoshi interacts with the changes in various crafty ways, or, craft-based ways. I'm loving the creativity on display here, and I cannot see more of this game soon enough. Like, my hype is at max for this game already.
Yeah, that's a great point, Ash. The environments seem really dynamic. Like, you see them shifting with Yoshi. He can sort of dent the cardboard and make new paths. And actually, I felt it was a bit more high energy than Woolly World ever was.
I'd agree with that, and that makes me way more excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Woolly World as well, but it could sometimes be peaceful to a fault. Nowhere near as peaceful as Epic Yarn, but I sometimes got a little bit bored after long stretches. Whereas Crafted World seems to have a lot more going on in each level.
It feels more dynamic, yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Things are changing constantly. It reminds me a little bit of Yoshi's Island in that sense, actually, which is a good thing.
I'm with Ash. I mean, I'm not sure if it's my game of the Direct. I think Luigi's Mansion has that for me.
Same here.
But I mean, I really enjoyed Woolly World. I like what they're doing here. It seems a lot more dynamic than what we saw at E3. Two E3, yeah, back in 2016, I think it was, long ago. Way more interesting than what was there, and I think they finally have an idea of what they wanted to do with it. But no visual change, which was actually the big surprise for me. Is I was expecting some big visual change, sort of like we saw with Woolly World, but no, it looks like they were pretty solid on that. They just needed to get the gameplay ironed out, and I'm excited for it. I'm very curious how it's going to play, and we'll see. I don't think I'm quite as hyped as Ash, but I'm definitely thinking this has some good potential.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I'm actually interested in it with coming off Yoshi's Woolly World, which I wasn't a huge fan of. So we'll see. I'm optimistic, but yeah, I'm not like through the roof like Ash seems to be for this.
I just really enjoyed Woolly World more than most, I admit. I think I actually enjoyed the fact that it was probably the chillest platformer I've ever played. But despite that, the late game challenges or the extra challenges could also be quite hard. So I like that kind of dynamic of being a really relaxing game if you wanted it to be, but also having some teeth when you get far enough into the game. And I don't know, I just enjoyed it so much that if this game is another game in the same vein as Woolly World, that alone is enough to excite me.
It does seem to have a co-op feature too, where at least it looks like you can have one Yoshi riding the other, I guess, which is a little bit odd, I suppose, when you think about it.
Little.
And now I'm just thinking of like a Yoshi stack, like just endlessly riding on top of
A-player
one another.
Yoshi.
Oh man.
Right.
I'm so glad Yoshi games are done being derivative of Yoshi's Island. Like Island DS and New Island were just basically remakes of the same game. And it feels like Yoshi has finally come into a more creative approach to its sequels, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So let's circle back around to the Final Fantasy Extravaganza announcement, where we just had endless Final Fantasies being announced, all of which I believe you predicted, John, in our discussion somehow.
I didn't predict what a Final Fantasy.
Oh, that's
that one
true.
caught me a bit off guard. I love how they announced all of these, though. Like they started off with Crystal Chronicles, which was a known quantity, then Final Fantasy 15 Pocket version, and then they, instead of just going like 7, 9, 10, they went with 12 to start with, which was kind of weird. And it was like they were almost sort of trying to catch you off guard. And I don't think they actually announced 10 until like the very end. 10 was kind of thrown in there. And it's like they're catching off guard, like they're really doing every Final Fantasy. And these are all HD ports too, so basically everything that's on PS4 apart from 14 and 15 are on Switch, which is absolutely mad. And I never really thought they would have the actual full-fledged Final Fantasy VII on a Nintendo platform. That's still sinking in.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this finally shuts up all the Cloud haters, like, oh, Cloud doesn't belong in Smash because he's never been in a Nintendo console. First of all, that's not true, but second of all, here he is, his original game is on Switch.
I like how that's a self-fulfilling thing, though. Like, once he was in Smash, he was then on a Nintendo console, so...
That's true, yeah. But it's honestly, I mean, you guys know, I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan. I'm so excited to see all these games coming to Switch. I figured they would all be coming eventually, like 7, 9, and 10, and 10-2, and 12. But I did not think they'd all get announced together in this direct. So, John, hats off to you, man. You called it.
Yeah, it's pretty
and
amazing.
I am so excited to play all these on my Switch on the go. It's going to be so cool having FF7 on the go. And I mean, yeah, you had 10 and 10.2 HD on the Vita, so you could technically have that on the go before. But about 5 people owned a Vita, so it's going to be it's going to be a lot more exciting to have 10 and 10.2 HD remaster on the Switch. And I mean, God, FF9 too, like, oh, this is so exciting. I just feel really bad for 8. I hope 8 does get a new release on PS4 and Switch at some point, but I'm so excited about all this. And World of Final Fantasy, Maxima Edition, whatever it's called, what a random surprise, along with Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon, everybody. Like, they were not kidding about supporting the Switch.
Yeah, Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon is the biggest surprise for me. The fact that it's actually launching this year as well. It's like, where did this come from? This random Mystery Dungeon game. I don't think there's been an entry in this series since the PlayStation era.
Right.
So, just out of nowhere. And I was joking when we've got our first 3. Is like, well, John, you were right. We got 3 Final Fantasy games on there. And then it just kept going.
It was basically a Final Fantasy Direct.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I mean, it is nuts, but there's a lot of good stuff on here. Like, I'm not going to get every game on here, but 4 or 5 of them, that's a good chunk.
Yeah.
Like, it is exciting to see these games on the Switch and be able to take them anywhere. It's like, yeah, I'm good. I have these on PlayStation 4, but I'll rebuy them because I'm a sheep.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to get all the numerical ones, and maybe Crystal Chronicles as well, because that has new online components, which could be really interesting.
Yeah, it actually makes the game playable for once.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So speaking of RPGs, we got the announcement of Town from Game Freak, the developer of Pokemon, which seems to be a new RPG that looked pretty cool, actually. Derek, I know you were pretty excited during the Direct about this.
I mean, if anything, this makes me more excited for the next Pokemon. Like, this
Poor Town.
really shows that what they can do with the Switch and what we can maybe expect out of the next Pokemon game. Granted, they did say that this entire game takes place around this one town, and it's a super generic name. But the visuals of it, the idea behind it, I think there's a lot here. And anytime Game Freak branches out from the typical Pokemon fare, we get some really good titles. Like their last non-Pokemon game was Tembo the Badass Elephant, which was a lot of fun. And I'm like, sure, Game Freak, go wild. Let's see what you got.
I'm a big fan of condensed games. So like when you take developers who usually make giant sprawling worlds, I quite like it when they take a different approach and make just one very small environment. Kind of like Majora's Mask to Ocarina of Time. They're just a smaller take on the same kind of concept. So it could be really interesting just to see one game built around one single town. But as you were saying, the visuals really are the thing that sets this apart. Because you look at Pokemon Let's Go, and it has a vibe, has a nice style going for it. But Town just blows it away. Like, this looks so good in comparison to Let's Go.
Yeah, the visuals really, really blew me away in that. And I only got to see like a few seconds because I was, so busy in the back end adding tags and things. But it almost seemed to have like a Miyazaki-esque or Studio Ghibli kind of esque quality to it, which, if I'm right about that, that's always a good thing. But either way, the visuals really blew me away. And I don't know about the concept of it all taking place in a single town. Like that, I'm a little iffy on. But again, it's still so early to know either way. And just right out of the gate, the visuals are really, really nice and impressing. So this is definitely one to watch, I think.
Well, speaking of RPGs, we got another one in the form of Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey. So the game itself is known, but I believe Bowser Jr.'s Journey is new, right? We didn't know about that before.
No, we knew about it before.
Oh, did we? Okay, I totally forgot. All right. Was there anything new there then?
I mean, we got the story reason, but that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's coming. I mean, it's a remake of Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story.
I mean, that part's fine. Like, it was,
that part's
it was a great
fine.
Game. Yeah, it's just.
But like, same thing with Superstar Saga. It's like it seems to have that same additional mode that wasn't that fun in Superstar Saga plus Bowser's Minions, or at least it's similar enough to where it's not. Doesn't seem like it's worth getting excited about. And I know some people are going to laugh at me about this, but again, Dream Team had the nicest 3D visuals, and the fact that they keep going with that kind of visual style and don't have stereoscopic 3D in these games just completely turns me off.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And actually, one thing I do like about more about this remake than the prior one is the visuals in Superstar Saga were wildly different to the Dream Team aesthetic. Whereas Bowser's Inside Story isn't quite so wild. It's still kind of similar to what we have now. So there's not really any divisiveness with this remake in the same way there was to the original. It's kind of more safe, but I'm still not feeling anything for this extra mode, like I was with Bowser's Minions. I just look at this and I feel nothing. I found Bowser's Minions so boring in the Superstar Saga remake, and I'm feeling the exact same thing here.
Yep. I'm right there with you. It's too bad Bowser Jr.'s first time headlining a game has to be in a mode that's almost no one's going to play or want to play. While we're on the topic of 3DS, we had a few other announcements, or reveals, I suppose, including the fact that we got another trailer for Luigi's Mansion, this time revealing that there's a co-op mode. You can also use Amiibo to help you get through the game as well, evidently. The co-op mode, though, is pretty cool. Like, that puts a neat little spin, I think, on playing the main game, and might give people a good reason to go back to it.
Mm-hmm. And you predicted this one, Andre.
Not quite your Final Fantasy prediction, John, but I'll take it.
or John's Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn prediction.
That's right. So speaking of which, that's a thing now. It looks like Kirby's Epic Yarn, which is good. It looks just like the original. But they're adding some new features to this, though, right?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of mini games which are entirely new. And then there's also one called Devilish Mode, where it looks like you actually take hits, because in Kirby's Epic Yarn you can't actually die, and it seems like in Devilish Mode you actually do have a health bar, which for me sounds absolutely great because I was so bored of Epic Yarn.
Yeah, Epic Yarn took the concept of being too easy and just ran with it, and was like it just took it to this crazy extreme. It's just a shame that this Devilish Mode is going to be locked to 3DS, at least for the foreseeable future, because I would love to play through Kirby's Epic Yarn like this, but on the 3DS, I don't know if I really want to.
I mean, I think Epic Yarn makes a better fit than Woolly World, because I looked at the visuals and they look pretty much like the Wii version. Like, it didn't feel like a downgrade like Woolly World was. It still looks pretty great. To me, this just feels like a version sort of like Superstar Ultra, where it's basically all the features of Superstar, just with a few more modes tossed in to make it a bit more appealing. And of course, you got to get Meta Knight and D2D in on the action and a few other features. But it's a thing. It makes sense. I mean, it makes perfect sense to put it on the 3DS. Just this nice, easy game that people can just kind of enjoy.
Yeah, there you go. Now, even though I didn't predict this officially in the discussion, I'm going to take credit for it, but I totally called this way back in probably our first analysis, where we got an update on Mario Tennis Aces, the 2.0 update, with playable characters including P.D. Piranha, which I called from day one, and as well as the background, as well as other characters, including Birdo, Shy Guy, and Koopa Paratroopa. I'm pretty sure I called at least all of those.
At least.
This is Birdo's first HD appearance, I think. I don't think she's ever been in an HD game.
No, she was in Paper Mario, Color
Splash, yeah.
Oh, right. I suppose so. Yeah. Okay.
That doesn't really count in the same way, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's true. So that's cool. More content. They're keeping the game, and they're adding some new modes too, right?
Co-op challenge, yeah.
Yeah.
And they can get little accessories to the guys now, so you can have Chain Chomp wear a hat. That's cool.
That is adorable. Do you think they'll bring it back to the game, John, or are you kind of over it now?
So I got a good 50 hours out of Mario Tennis Aces,
yeah.
So I feel like I've kind of had my fill, but there's some quality of life improvements they still need to fix. Like when you play locally with a friend and you select your maps, you can't actually see what courts you're choosing. It's still just text, and that needs to be fixed. But yeah, it sounds interesting. I'll give the co-op modes a go. But I do love that they're adding new costumes, because some characters could really use them.
Yeah.
I don't like how characters like Donkey Kong and Yoshi literally are just their generic appearances, whereas Mario and Luigi and Wario and Waluigi are all in sports gear. Like, why isn't everyone in sports gear? So it kind of makes sense that they're sort of adding these costumes to the characters now.
Yep, I agree. Moving on, we got another look at Starlink Battle for Atlas. It doesn't show a whole lot we didn't already know, except for one key addition. We got to see Wolf for the first time in a pretty ominous looking scene, actually. Where was he eating like a leg or something?
He was eating something, and I loved his voice and just his general demeanor. Like it had such a nice ominous feeling to it, especially when he's just like, man, never thought I'd miss the food on Corneria. I don't know why. That's such a badass line to me.
Yeah, the voice direction in Starlink is so good.
It's great.
The Star Fox crew, they're the same actors, but they've never sounded this good before.
It's
so cinematic. Great. It's just so ominous, as you were saying just now, Derek. I'm so excited for this, and I didn't think I would be for Starlink. But the Star Fox cameos are just nailing it.
I mean, and calling them cameos is really selling us short, because they are like really well integrated into the game. So I really can't wait to play this, and it won't be that long actually, because it comes out next month. So I think it's a game that's been overlooked up to this point, but people are starting to pay attention to it now, and I'm excited to see the reception to it once it comes out. So I think that covers it for most of the big updates. Is there any big ones? Oh, I guess, hold on. Actually, Katamari Damacy REROLL. There we go. That's a big one.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's just the original game, but it's also... is this the first time Katamari's been on a Nintendo console?
Good question.
I believe it is. There might have been one for DS or something.
Yeah, I think there may have been.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there might have been one for DS, but otherwise I think this is the first time, maybe except for that. But this was like the most exciting announcement for me, just because I'm such a huge fan of this game and of this whole series, and I kind of thought it wouldn't ever come back. Like, the series has been MIA since Katamari Forever, back on the PlayStation 3. Mm-hmm. So it's been quite a while since we've seen a new Katamari game, and yes, this isn't technically new, but it's been so long since the original, and a lot of fans still feel like the original's the best. So I think it makes sense to go back to the beginning, get drum up some interest, and some awareness around this series again, and then maybe they'll use this as a launching off point to maybe make a new game. But either way, I'm so happy to see Katamari back, and on the Switch no less. Like, this is... It's becoming such a tired phrase now, but it is perfect for the Switch, and I can't wait. And plus, you got HD Rumble, gyro control. Like, both of those things are things that make perfect sense for Katamari Damacy in general, so I really can't wait to see how they implement those things specifically.
Yeah, I can see this being like a HD Rumble killer app. I mean, you can just feel like everything underneath you, and I feel everything really tumbling around.
Right?
That'd be really cool.
That's a good point. That gets Ash excited alone, so...
That is a good point. You know what surprised me, and I'm actually kind of excited for? The Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle. Like,
Hell
talk
yeah.
about coming out of nowhere, and I think it comes out next week or something like that.
Yeah, you're right.
And I'm all about it. Like, games like Knights of the Round and Final Fight to have local and online play, I'm getting this moment one. Like, there's no way I'd pass this up. And this is one of those announcements that I love these kinds of, oh yeah, by the way, here, let's throw this in there too. We also have this, and it's actually something really cool that could have been its own thing. But no, they're just throwing it in as a nice little bonus, like, oh yeah, hey, here are all these Capcom arcade beat-em-ups on Switch now with local and online play. Have fun. And it's like, whoa, that's actually awesome.
Mm-hmm. Including 2 games that have never been on consoles before. I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right. Capcom have turned it around really well too. Like this time last year, we were playing a $50 version of Street Fighter 2 with online.
That's true.
And now we have this big compilation out of nowhere of all these brilliant beat-em-ups. And they seem to have been carefully ported. As you're saying, they have online play for all of these games, which is just remarkable. Yeah, that's great.
I will say there was one Capcom announcement or Capcom-related announcement that kind of disappointed me, and that had to do with the Mega Man 11's, or the use of Amiibo in Mega Man 11. All you get is you scan either the old Smash Amiibo or the new Mega Man Amiibo, you scan it in, and you get an E-Tank or some other helpful item once per day. Like, why couldn't they have just said that from the beginning to, like, not get people hyped for this new Amiibo and its functionality?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does kind of suck. And I'm kind of thinking, what else could they have done for this Amiibo? But there's something better than that.
Unlock some costumes or something. You know, just some premium costumes or whatever. Just something more than just scan it in once a day and get an E-Tank. Like, that's just so disappointing to me.
It would have been cool if, like, he unlocks voice clips from previous Mega Man games, and sort of put them into 11.
Yeah, just something like that. Like, yeah, Mega Man 8 voice clips or something beyond getting a helpful item once per day. But, you know, at least we're still getting a brand new Mega Man Amiibo, which is really cool. It's just a shame it's not more, the utility isn't more interesting.
So, I think that covers pretty much all the major announcements. Is there anything else you guys want to touch on before we wrap it up here?
Do we want to touch on Splatoon 2 version 4?
I guess, yeah, I mean, that's kind of a big one, I suppose, even though I don't know if I fully processed that trailer.
I know, me neither. There was a lot going on.
There's like a new stage, I think, right? Some new gear.
It says, according to the press release we got, apparently there's significant new Splatfest changes that are coming apart as part of this update, so...
Nice.
Yeah. And in October, we'll get a new stage, new songs, and more Kensa Collection weapon sets. New sub and special weapons as well. So there's, like, it actually is adding a lot of stuff that'll change the balancing of the game just because of the new weapons and new specials. That's pretty major.
Yeah.
But I didn't get to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, we need to go back and take a closer look at that. So it's good to see them still supporting that game, especially in light of Nintendo Switch Online. So
right.
Well, I guess, I mean, we could go over everything else here. We just don't have time to do every game here, but I think we covered all the big stuff. So how do you guys feel about the Direct overall? Did it live up to your expectations? Did it fully deliver on your hopes for Smash Brothers in terms of the character announcements? What do you think overall of this Direct?
Well, apart from the lack of Resident Evil 4, it was pretty great. I mean, it was really varied. Some great surprising games. Lots of new Nintendo first-party games, like, I didn't think we'd see anything from Game Freak, apart from Pokemon Let's Go, so that was a nice surprise. Of course, Animal Crossing. I mean, we didn't really see it, but that's just such a huge, major game. I was looking at the sales charts for 3DS, and New Leaf was the 7th best-selling 3DS game, and it outsold Wild World on DS, which seemed absolutely huge at the time. So, Animal Crossing is obviously a juggernaut, and it is one of Nintendo's biggest franchises, and to see it's finally coming to Switch is just it's probably the highlight of 2019 for a lot of people.
I would say that was a big deal to get Animal Crossing in this Direct, and I'm personally thankful it happened because back in our original predictions discussion, that was at the time considered my big off the wall. Oh man, this is a pretty unsafe prediction. Now, at this point, in the context of now, it's like, oh yeah, Animal Crossing. Everyone expected this, but it almost seemed like I was going to be wrong about that, and then at the very end, they snuck it in, and I'm like, oh, okay, good. But no, I agree with you, Jean. This was a great Direct, a really nice mix of things we were expecting, plus things we weren't. Again, we got a lot of those really cool one-off, oh yeah, this is also really cool announcements, like the Capcom Beat 'em Up collection. And, we got Isabelle, which is a super... I mean, I expected her, and she was one of the characters I predicted, but I didn't expect to be as excited as I am about her in terms of how she looks like she plays, and we got the Final Fantasy extravaganza. Like, it was a really diverse really strong direct in terms of having both Nintendo first-party announcements and really strong third-party stuff. So I'm feeling really good about it.
I mean, I pretty much have to echo what you guys said. It was a very solid direct. I think it was just impressive how, like, bam, 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 just so many announcements so quick. You just really were always waiting to see what was happening next, and even if you didn't weren't interested in one announcement, the next thing might be there for you and keep you interested. And they did not take too much time on the 3DS. I think maybe 5 minutes of it, if that, was focused on the 3DS. The rest is all Switch, and I love the great mix of first-party titles, especially their surprises, along with these third-party titles that are still like really interesting and want to pick up.
Also, one more thing. This direct was delayed by a week, and to be honest, I don't feel that. It doesn't feel like
no.
It doesn't really feel like anything that was announced prior to this was really awkward in here. Like, even the Mega Man demo was just it was just some text. Like, it was nothing that was really felt dated. So yeah, they did a really good job with tidying up the delay.
I totally agree. None of Nintendo's own major announcements really got leaked beyond Yoshi. So. And even then, barely. It was a title, so who cares? No, I thought it was a really strong direct. We had a wide variety of announcements covering a ton of games. Like as we were covering it, like it was non-stop action. Like we barely had time to keep up. We could barely keep pace with the direct itself. So that was impressive. We had Smash in there. We had two major game announcements in the form of Animal Crossing and Luigi's Mansion. I wish we had seen actual Animal Crossing gameplay. I understand why they're saving it, but I wish we had actually seen it. Luigi's Mansion, though, that was perfect. I saw enough to make me content with that. Definitely enough for us to work with when it comes to analysis. And I really am excited. I did not see that game coming in particular. So, yeah, great. I think overall a great direct. So with that, I think we're about done here. So thank you so much for watching, guys. If you liked our discussion, make sure to like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You'll find links to all those in the description below. And of course, stay tuned to GameXplain for tons more from this direct, including probably more in-depth discussions, in-depth analysis videos, probably some comparisons in there. Who knows what else we'll think of. I'm sure there'll be lots of crap coming out of it. So, and with that, we'll catch you later. Bye.